And in his name, the Gentiles will hope. As far as the reading of God's holy word, let's pray together. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for your spirit. Thank you, God, that you've given us, Lord, your revelation, that we can hold it in our hands ourselves. And we get to pour over, Father, all of your promises, Lord, that you promised to your people about Mashiach, about the Messiah. Thank you, Lord, that you chose to put us into your story, Lord, after the time of Christ, where we get to look back at all of your providence, the beauty, Lord, of your sovereignty. And you are weaving together history for your glory. Thank you, Lord, that we have an ultimate standard to point to stand on.
For decades, the battle has raged on in front of Planned Parenthood clinics nationwide. Christianity has deemed fit to continue a campaign of denigrations, humiliations, and invading the privacy of women across this country seeking abortions. In Tempe, Arizona, this scene was a culmination of that campaign. A local church held a conference followed by a practicum of protesting Planned Parenthood. This scene was shot at the back wall of that clinic. Such notables include Rusty Thomas, Cal Zastro, Joseph Spurgeon, John Speed, and John Barros. Everyone you see here disregarded a trespass order to encroach on private property in order to yell out humiliations at that back wall. For all their efforts to break the law in order to attempt to interrupt the daily routine of Planned Parenthood, not one of them has lifted a finger to protest the Arizona Reproductive Medical Services Clinic. It's a totally different story when it comes to fertility clinics. You see, unlike the clinics operated by Planned Parenthood, the Arizona Reproductive Medical Specialist Clinic is operated by Dr. Drew Moffitt, who is Christian. Unlike Planned Parenthood, there is no access to these patients seeking to be implanted with their tailor-made, just-right embryos. These ministries take in hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations for their work in preserving life. Yet, they refuse to preserve life at Arizona Reproductive Medical Services Clinic, where, on a daily basis, the glass pipettes that contain live embryos are broken and the contents are destroyed in the name of research. Hi, I'm Errol Mcinnes. In this documentary, we're going to be taking a look at one of the biggest issues gripping this nation today. We're going to be looking at the issue of abortion. In the last few years, Planned Parenthood has been under attack more severely than previously by the Christian evangelical groups who seek to end abortion. That's their stated mission, is that they seek to abolish abortion nationwide. And that is an issue that has indeed been going on ever since the Supreme Court judged on Roe v. Wade. I'm standing here at this particular location because while all of this argument was going on with abortion, there is another medical discipline that started rearing its head. That medical discipline is in vitro fertilization. I'm standing here at Arizona Reproductive Medicine Specialists. This institute right here specializes in fertility treatments. One of those fertility treatments that it specializes in is in vitro fertilization. We're going to look at the process of in vitro fertilization. We're going to look at the process of what happens to those embryos that are created and yet not wanted. And we're going to compare those to the fetuses that are created and not wanted and brought to Planned Parenthood for termination. We're going to look at the difference between the termination at Planned Parenthood versus the termination in this particular institute in a moment. In vitro fertilization is one of medicine's most touted disciplines. IVF clinics are praised for their work in bringing opportunity to reproduce to those couples who could not do so naturally. The process of in vitro fertilization begins here under a microscope in a fertility clinic. The process is laborious, time-consuming, and expensive. Couples can expect to pay upwards of $15,000 for each egg implanted. Here we see the fertilization process. Multiple eggs have been collected from the woman procuring the implantation. Along with those eggs, sperm has been collected from the man who will become the father of those children produced by the IVF procedure. In this instance, the IVF tech has gathered the eggs and the sperm and is now proceeding with the fertilization process. In this process, upwards of 20 eggs can be fertilized at one time. The egg is entrapped by a pipette via suction. The sperm cell is encased in a glass needle the width of a human hair. The needle is inserted into the egg and the sperm injected, thus causing the effect of a forced conception. The tech performing this procedure has implanted 5 eggs. While fertilizing one of the eggs, he notices that the egg is highly malformed and of poor quality. He fertilizes it anyways, stating that he is injecting it for the sake of injecting it. These new blastocytes will undergo a system of scoring for their viability to be implanted. Those implanted may develop into fully formed fetuses and be carried to term in order to be born children. Those blastocytes not deemed viable will be destroyed. The tissue will be donated to medical research. In one well-known case, Nancy Reagan decried the process until her husband, President Ronald Reagan, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Once he was diagnosed, she commented publicly on the need for stem cell research. Her public campaign highlighted the Republican sentiment that we will fight to stop something unless it impacts us directly. Then we will fight to perpetuate it. Christianity's eagerness to decry Planned Parenthood while not uttering a word about the practice of IVF was not missed by me when, in a recent counter-protest, I asked Jeff Durbin of Apologia Church about the issue. Durbin had persistently preached that pro-choice supporters were eager to avoid the issue of life when asked by him. Durbin's thinly veiled attempt to avoid the issue was not missed by me when producing this documentary either. This footage was produced as a call-out video. The day of the shooting of this video was the last day that Jeff Durbin protested at Planned Parenthood. Durbin's excuse that I am only one pastor flew in the face of the fact that there are multiple pastors at Apologia.
I'm just sharing.
Apologia has collected hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations.
Our social media
Apologia
right
has
now,
purchased tens of thousands of dollars in audio and video equipment.
Welcome to the live stream.
That church is now traveling nationwide, promoting their documentary, Babies Are Murdered Here.
Tempe, Arizona.
They have announced exactly 0 stops at an IVF clinic to highlight the number of lives terminated in those facilities.
One more. Facial behavioral responses have also been used as indicators of stress or pain.
Protested the fertility clinic.
Shortly after the development of skin sensitivity,
that's a good point. No.
Stimulation results in hyperexcitability and a generalized.
No, they create actual living human beings.
After 26 weeks, this generalized
human beings.
gradually gives
let me grant this to you.
that indicate improved
I
organization
confess blind spots,
Infants
right?
delivered at 26
And there is something, when we started really engaging this, Errol, about 3 years ago, we investigated the snowflake babies. You know what those are? That's the fertility clinics that create all these human beings, distinct human beings. Then they just freeze them. So you have a distinct created human being frozen, and that we're looking for mothers to implant these humans in so they can grow, right? So I just want to say, I confess my own blind spots and deficiencies, and that I often miss things that I ought not miss, and I need to, but I can only balance so much.
One of the attendees at the Tempe conference was Rusty Thomas, the National Director of Operation Save America, an incrementalist pro-birth organization. Rusty Thomas has one other very notable characteristic. In his own words, Rusty Thomas proclaims that he died and was resurrected from the dead.
Oh, brother. Well, obviously, chaps, going into the ministry certainly wasn't my idea. In fact, it wasn't even on the screen. My desire was to become a Hollywood actor. In fact, I had made it to the point I had a manager with Columbia Pictures, and as the doors were opening up to my career in Hollywood, God had a contention with me because he had separated me from my mother's womb and called me to preach his word. Well, I was a disobedient, ungrateful, rebellious son. And eventually, chaps, God took out his heavy hand and he dealt harshly with me. He literally came into my room one night and killed me, literally sucked me out of my body. And he had some pointed words for me, such as, son, if you don't get this right, I'm going to take you out. I literally know what death is like. You're checking out of your body and you can't stop it. You're going. And I remember screaming, and whether somebody heard me or not, but I remember screaming, "Oh God, please give me another chance." And he put me back into my body, and I had two fiery revelations. A, I got the fear of God, which I did not have before as a child of God. And B, I thought it was a good idea to go into the ministry.
Thomas was recently arrested in Louisville, Kentucky. Thomas sat in the doorway of an abortion clinic in violation of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Shortly after that arrest, a GoFundMe campaign was launched. GoFundMe's terms of service clearly forbid raising funds to pay financial consequences of criminal activities. The campaign states that it is intended to repair a failed transmission in Thomas's van. Another of the notable attendees at the conference hosted by Apologia was Cal Zastro. Zastro gained notoriety for his numerous arrests in front of Planned Parenthood clinics. Zastro's church can often be the place to go if you want to be a martyr for Christ. In this sermon, Zastro holds nothing back as he scolds his congregation for not being prepared to martyr themselves and praises the honor of those who break the law in the name of Christianity. Zastro's sermons border on promoting terrorism.
Children, first of all, and then the children in your church, to love them and disciple them, to prepare them to go be martyrs for Christ. Yes. And if you're not doing that, you're in a la-la land. You're in idolatry. You're in selfishness. And you're not equipping people for the work of the ministry. The churches in China that are honored the most are not the ones who have the best pretty buildings, the coolest praise and worship music, or the most stoic hymns and most beautiful pipe organs. No, it's none of that. The churches in China that are honored the most are the ones that have produced the most faithful martyrs for Christ. That's what honor is over there. And the underground churches in China, when your pastor gets beaten and arrested, when he gets killed, or when he's off somewhere working in a coal mine to death, you consider that a great blessing and honor to your church. Yeah, you miss your pastor. Yeah, you got to take care of his wife and child now. You consider that an honor.
Now, one of the other key players in this whole situation is a gentleman by the name of John Speed. John Speed has an interesting role in this whole thing in that he preaches vehemently about the end of abortion. In fact, he's participated in such campaigns as End Abortion Now. And yet, this is the comment that he made about the work of Abolish Human Abortion. When they put out a video, he replied to it. His replies were not too kind. Another attendee at the conference was John Speed, an elder at Christ is King Baptist Church. Speed has been extremely active in measures to stop abortion. Speed is seen here along with the rest of them ignoring a trespass order and encroaching on private property in order to yell denigrations at patients as they left the clinic. While Speed has been extremely active in the pursuit to end abortions, he has never once taken any action to end in vitro fertilization. When he was called out by Abolish Human Abortion for his lax attitude towards IVF and the destruction of unwanted embryos, this was his response.
My name is John Speed, and I'm the pastor of Christ is King Baptist Church here in Syracuse, New York, and I'm also the co-producer of the Babies Are Murdered Here documentary on abortion. Babies Are Murdered Here has recently decided to basically disassociate with abolish human abortion. And this video is intended to explain our reasons why we're not having anything to do with AHA. Babies Are Murdered Here does not believe it's the job of any parachurch ministry to confront specific local churches which are true in the theological sense of the term if they do not get it regarding abortion and abortion ministry. And by confront, we mean engage in campaigns to notify the members of that church in any way that the leadership does not do anything about abortion. AHA is planning on engaging in a campaign to address local churches that they are not members of or attend in order to confront the leadership with truths about abortion. If this campaign was limited to churches which are liberal in their theology, do not preach the gospel, and support abortion, as R.C. Sproul has stated, we could agree with that. However, various AHA affiliates have stated that this campaign will include any church which does not do anything about the abortion issue.
Todd Bullis of Abolish Human Abortion has an interesting tactic. When he is not protesting abortion clinics, he is protesting churches. The churches cheer and clap when he stands in front of abortion clinics with graphic depictions of aborted fetuses. It's a different story altogether when he stands in front of churches with the very same pictures.
Just get a love on us. It'll be good. We love you guys too. You know, you're looking really good, man.
I know, I got your hair done.
God bless you. Yeah, God bless you. Okay.
Good morning. God bless you too.
Morning. Okay. What's up, man?
Love you, my brother.
Love you too.
man.
We love you guys too. That's why we're out here.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
All right.
Oh yeah, doing great.
Hi there.
Hey, Susie.
I love you.
I love you too. Hey.
We love you. We miss you in church.
Well, thank you.
I'm serious.
I
God
appreciate
loves
it.
you.
I know he does. I know. Number one cause of
Listen
death.
to him, sweetie.
Happy Father's Day.
You know, we're all sleeping through this Holocaust, right?
Yes.
Double of heart disease, that's how many babies are dying in America. And we're sleeping through it.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too. Number one cause of death in the church really is sleeping during it.
Right.
We'll be getting better, man. Love you.
Now you know what this is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the act of showing you exactly what the Father would do. In spite of where we are, He would always come and show
This
us.
isn't showing us what the Father would do. What the Father would do would ask us to protect the unborn.
That's what He's doing.
So here this dilemma goes on, just as it has for decades, and so it will continue. From the time of the vote on Roe v. Wade all the way up to today, week by week, month by month, year by year, the battle's going to rage on in front of Planned Parenthood clinics where the evangelicals are going to protest. They're going to say that we need to uphold a higher moral standard. They're going to say that abortion is murder. But they won't come out here and say that in vitro fertilization is inception. And they won't say that in vitro fertilization, in vitro destruction is murder. They tend to stay away from this industry altogether. Now, granted, there was one point at which Abolish Human Abortion was documented protesting a IVF clinic in Dallas, Texas. Hours after I made the call out to a pastor in front of a Planned Parenthood here in Phoenix, somebody informed me that Abolish Human Abortion had protested an IVF clinic in Texas. Currently, to date, that is the only documentation that I have seen of any protest of an IVF clinic. But here we also have another dilemma. We have the dilemma that goes on in the State House every single day. Because the politicians are rushing to do everything they can to put limitations on abortion, to put limitations on the funding of Planned Parenthood. And yet, not one piece of legislation has been brought before the House to limit or defund any of this. Now, granted, there is one big difference. This is funded primarily by insurance. It's also funded out of pocket. But here's also the great difference. The abortions at Planned Parenthood are also funded out of the individual's pocket. No money is taken out from the federal government's budget. No legislation has ever passed to allow money to be taken out of the federal budget to fund an abortion. And yet, this battle of the morals and the battle of the wills is going to continue. And that's fine. As long as preachers stand in front of a Planned Parenthood, I will also stand in front of a Planned Parenthood. But on the days that the preachers are not standing in front of the Planned Parenthood, and on the days that I'm not standing in front of a Planned Parenthood, I'm going to stand like places at this. So I wrap up with my one last sentiment here. If you wish to keep praying for me, by all means keep praying for me, because rest assured I'm going to keep thinking for you. Thank you for watching Gods in Glass Tubes.